Ever tried explaining a joke that absolutely killed to someone who just didn't get it? It's like this universal sign that humor, well, humor is a wild beast. But then what happens when you have like millions of people trying to like wrangle that beast into one online space? That's kind of what we're diving into today, the wonderful, weird world of Reddit's funny.
Yeah, you're talking about a subreddit with literally millions of subscribers all coming together because they want a laugh. You would think, I mean, with a name like Smar, funny, that anything goes. But it actually gets kind of interesting, like with any huge online community, when you try to figure out what actually works and what just gets totally lost in the algorithm.
Yeah, it's like trying to crack some kind of comedy code. So where do we even begin?
Well, like with any good investigation, we start with the official rule book.
Music to my ears. So, rule number one, and tell me if I'm wrong, ta no memes. Are we even allowed to talk about internet humor without mentioning memes? What's the deal here?
It's a bold move, that's for sure, especially these days. But it makes you think, right? Are they like trying to avoid all that overused, predictable stuff? Is funny going for like a higher level of humor?
So, no tired meme formats. Got it. But then the next rule throws a total curveball. Make us laugh, it says, but it's subjective. Talk about a tough crowd to please.
Right. It's like, hey, be objectively funny to millions of strangers
Right.
who all have wildly different senses of humor. No
Yeah.
pressure. But seriously, that rule just highlights like the core challenge of humor. It's so personal. What makes one person snort with laughter might make someone else roll their eyes.
And to add even more complexity, they're really strict about reposts. They even recommend using tools like Karma Decay and Tainai to sniff them out.
That's dedication to originality right there.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, don't just show us what's already been funny somewhere else. Give us something new for crying out loud, something we haven't already seen 1,000 times.
Fresh jokes for a discerning audience. I like it. But here's where things get really interesting and maybe a little controversial. Ready for this? No politics allowed.
Whoa, now that's a statement. In a world where it seems like everything is political, Fofany is drawing a line in the sand. What do you make of that?
Well, it definitely seems like they're consciously creating a space for escapism, a refuge from the constant onslaught of news and opinions.
And honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Humor can be such a powerful tool for stress relief. They're basically saying, leave your political hats at the door, folks. We're here to laugh.
And maybe find some common ground in the process.
Exactly. When you take politics out of the equation, you're left with something so much more universal, that shared human experience.
And speaking of universal experiences, there's another rule that caught my eye. No gore, porn, or animal cruelty. Which, fair enough. Not exactly laugh-a-minute material for most people, though they do point you to RNSFW funny if that's not your thing.
Which says a lot,
Yeah.
right? They're not saying those things can never be funny, just that they don't belong in this specific space. Again, it's about curating a particular type of humor, setting a certain tone for the community.
Okay, last but not least, and this one feels very specific. Comics are only allowed on Wednesdays and Sundays. Like, why those days? What's so special about a Wednesday comic?
It's almost like they're like designating those days as a break from the usual flow, a chance for a different style of humor to come through.
Interesting. So we've definitely got a sense of the don'ts. But what about the do's? What kind of content actually thrives in this memeless, politics-free zone? I'm genuinely curious.
Me too.
Yeah.
And that's where the real detective work begins. Let's ditch the rule book for a minute and dig into some actual posts, yeah?
Yeah.
Ready to see what makes the funny tick? Absolutely. Let's ditch the rule book and get into some real-world funny action. What we got?
Okay, picture this. A dog, head stuck in a tissue box. But it's not like a help me kind of stuck, It's that blissful, I found the good snacks kind of stuck. Pure comedic gold, and of course a top post all week.
It's that relatable absurdity, right? Like we've all been that dog. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Sure.
So engrossed in something ridiculous, but so happy about it.
Totally. And the comment section was chef's kiss. Top comment. Me trying to find a clean sock in the morning. Instant connection.
You see, that's the magic of observational humor. It takes something so mundane, something we've all experienced, and just like flips it into this shared moment of, oh yeah, that's life, isn't it?
Okay, next up, classic case of texting gone wrong. Someone accidentally sent a super personal message to the wrong person.
Oh, no.
And the recipient's response, perfect.
Oh, the cringe factor can be so high with these, but when they land, they land.
Yeah.
What made this one work so well?
Timing, mostly. The accidental recipient just played it cool, made a witty joke about needing more context. It was the perfect blend of awkward and hilarious.
I can see it.
And again, super relatable. Who hasn't lived in fear of sending that text to the wrong person?
Right. It taps into that, like, collective fear and just turns that anxiety into a shared laugh.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about Sheer Funny's success. It's not just about individual jokes. It's about creating this sense of community through humor.
Right, we're all in on the joke together.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, and this one kind of surprised me. A beautifully drawn single-panel comic. A bear and a rabbit are fishing, right? And the bear just goes, "You ever feel like life is just one long waiting game?" Simple, profound, and hilarious.
And a perfect example of how Her Funny isn't just about slapstick or silly situations, right?
Right.
They appreciate wit, introspection, even a little bit of existential dread, as long as it's wrapped up in a funny package.
So it seems like the key ingredients for Funny's success are relatable situations, clever execution, and maybe a dash of existentialism on the side.
Don't forget originality. We've seen it again and again. Her Funny values those fresh perspectives, that unique content. They'd rather see a new joke that completely misses the mark than the same tired meme for the millionth time.
It's a high bar, but clearly one that works for, millions of people. You know, it's funny. Our own About This Deep Dive Style guide had some thoughts about humor that seem almost laughable in this context.
Who tell?
It really emphasized using sarcasm, wit, and even get the psychoanalytic insights, which, on paper, kind of ambitious.
Right? Like, just sprinkle in some Freud and you've got yourself a comedy goldmine.
Yeah.
But, I mean, come on. As we're seeing, true humor is so much more nuanced than that.
Exactly. And a lot of times, the funniest things are the ones you could never script or force. It's that spontaneous, unexpected moment that makes people really laugh.
It's that spark of authenticity, that feeling of, this person gets me. That's what takes a joke from good to great. And that's not something you could just, like, get out of a rule book.
It's about understanding your audience,
Right.
taking risks and being willing to laugh at yourself along the way. So what have we learned from this deep dive into Fur Funny?
Well, we've definitely learned that Fur Funny is not just some random meme fest, right?
Mhm.
This is a community with some surprisingly, like, nuanced taste. Yeah, and a deep appreciation, I would say, for originality. Like,
Yeah.
it's like they're telling us, don't underestimate our intelligence or our sense of humor.
Right. So while those official rules definitely give us like the lay of the land, it's that, that unspoken code, that desire for something relatable, something surprising, something genuinely funny. That's what separates the posts that totally flop from the ones that, totally fly.
It's a good reminder, really, for anyone out there trying to, like, navigate the world of online humor. Know your audience, take creative risks, don't be afraid to embrace that element of surprise.
Because sometimes the best laughs come from the moments you least expect.
Exactly.
And hey, who knows? Maybe you'll be the one posting the next viral sensation on Funny.
Now there's a challenge. What would your contribution to Fur Funny be? Something original, relatable, side-splittingly hilarious, of course.
That's something to think about, dear listener. In the meantime, as always, keep exploring, keep laughing, and remember, the best humor, it always comes from a genuine place of connection.